Today we're going to move on to angles. I know we spent some time on some segments the last couple days, so now we're going to move on to angles. And we've already covered the word ray, but we're going to go ahead and look at rays again because we need them for today's lesson. So a ray is just part of a line. It has one endpoint and extends in one direction infinitely. So it means it goes on and on forever in one direction. It's named by the endpoint and one other point on the ray. So if I look at this picture, the endpoint would be M, and then I would need one of these other points, so O or P. And notice down here at the bottom I say ray MP, or I use the little symbol for ray, which is just this segment with an arrow on the end of it, or I could say ray MO. So you need the endpoint and one other point. Rays are the only one where order matters, so the endpoint must be written first. That's why I keep referring to M as the first letter. So MO or ray MP would both work. Now, order did not matter for segments or lines. So again, the only one where order matters is the ray. Now, opposite rays are two rays that share the same endpoint but go in opposite directions. So in this picture, we see that J is kind of in the middle. So we would look at ray JK and we would look at ray JH. They both start at J. One goes to the left, one goes to the right. Now, opposite rays always form a straight line. So they always form a straight line. Now that takes us into angles, which is what this lesson's about. So angles are just formed by two rays that share a common endpoint. The rays are called the sides of the angle, and the common endpoint is called the vertex. So if I look at this picture, we can see that X is the vertex, and the sides would be ray XY and ray XZ. So those would be the sides of my angle. Now, we can name an angle several different ways. So the first thing I want to talk about is the symbol for angle. So the symbol for angle is like this cursive or italicized L, or you might see it drawn like this, or you might see it drawn like this. So those are the three types of ways you'll see the symbol for angle drawn out. So we can name an angle by its vertex. So if there's only one angle present, you can name it by its vertex. So this would be angle X. Or you can name it with three letters as long as the vertex is in the center. So you can call this angle YXZ. So we could say angle YXZ. Or you could name it reverse ways. So ZXY, angle ZXY. As long as X is in the center, you're golden. Or if there is a number, so notice this little number 3 in there. So we could also call this angle 3. So there's like three different ways to name an angle. And the last part here says divides a plane into three distinct parts. So when we're talking about points and angles, we can say that the point is on the angle, like point Q or point M or point N. We can say the angle is inside or in the interior, like R and S. Or we could say the angle is outside or in the exterior of the angle, and that would be like OMP. So we could say a point is on the angle, we can say it's inside or on the interior, or we can say it's outside or on the exterior. And then the last vocabulary word that we're really going to talk about is angle measure, and we use degrees to measure how wide or how narrow an angle is. So as we continue on, we'll want to kind of remember that aspect of it as well. All right, so moving on here, we're going to look at some sample problems. For these first couple problems, it says, use the diagram below to solve these problems. Find the measure of each angle. So we just talked about how to name an angle. So if I want to look at number 1, which is angle MLN, we're going to start at M, we're going to go toward L, and we're going to go up to N. All right, so it's MLN, and we want to know how big that angle is. So from M all the way to N, that's going to be 60 degrees, because that's right there is the 60. So this angle is 60 degrees. Now we'll look at the next one, NLP. So we start at N, we're going to go down to L, and we're going to go over to P. So NLP. All right, so this time, it's not on 0 this time. So we want the distance from this point to this point. Well, N is at 60, and P is at 130. So we're just going to subtract those two numbers. So 130 minus 60 is going to give us 70 degrees. Or you could count it. I mean, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 would work as well. Now let's look at NLQ. So we're going to start at N, we're going to go down to L, and we're going to go over to Q. So a little bit bigger angle, but we still want from Q to N. So we can do this two ways, because notice Q, if we go on the inner track, starts at 0 and goes all the way over. Or we can use the outer track and we subtract, but you get the same answer. So from 0 to 120, or we could go 180 minus 60, but the same answer. This angle is 120 degrees. Now let's look at number 4. So from OLP, OLP. So same thing, we want from here to here. So we're going to take 130 minus 90. So 130 minus 90 is 40. So this angle is 40 degrees. And our last one, number 5, MLQ. So from M to L to Q. So now notice this one is a straight line, and we know a straight line is 180 degrees. And if I look on the outer track, from 0 to Q is 180 degrees. So this is 180 degrees. Okay, for the next section, we're going to name it. So in the beginning, we talked about naming angles several different ways. So if I look at number 5, we talked about if there's only one angle, we can name it by its vertex. So I can name it angle R, or I can name it with 3 letters. So remember, R has to be in the middle. So SRT, so angle SRT. Or reverse that, angle TRS, angle TRS. So it's almost like you're drawing the angle with your letters. So SRT or TRS. Now number 6, there's 2 angles there. So I really cannot use the Y for the single letter. So we can't name this angle Y. But I can look at angle 1, which is this angle over here. And we can use 3 letters. So I could call it angle XYW. Angle XYW, or I can reverse that, angle WYX. And then for the other angle, we could call it angle 2, or we could call it angle WYZ, or reverse that and call it ZYW. So that's what we do when we name angles. So if you've only got one, you can name it by its vertex, or you use the 3 letters with the vertex in the center. Or if it's got more than one angle at the same vertex, you can't really use the vertex as its name, but you can use a number or you can use the 3 letters. Okay, the next section says this is how you would classify them. So we know a right angle is 90 degrees. We know the acute angle is less than 90 degrees. He's small, he's cute. Obtuse is greater than 90, so he's big, he's fat, he's obtuse. And then you've got this straight angle, which we've talked about just briefly earlier. That one is 180 degrees. It's a straight line. For 7 through 12, we're actually going to decide if these angles are acute, right, obtuse, or straight, based on the measures that we got earlier. So number 7 is MLN, which we found to be 60 degrees. 60 is less than 90, so we know that this angle is acute. Okay, NLO, which we did not find, so we can look at that. NLO. So NLO, that's going to be an acute angle. He's smaller than 90. MLP. So if I look at MLP, that one is bigger than 90, so that one is going to be obtuse. Okay, if we look at OLP, we found that one on number 4. That one's going to be 40 degrees, so that makes him acute. OLQ, okay, that one is right at 90 degrees, so that one is right, so it's a right angle. And the last one, MLQ, we found that one on number 5. That's 180 degrees, so that one is a straight angle. All right, so last example, it gives us some information in a picture, and we are supposed to find the 2 missing angles. So it tells us that OZP is 4R plus 2. It tells us that PZQ, I'm going to change colors here, PZQ is 5R minus 12. And then it tells us that the whole angle, the OZQ, this whole angle, is 125. So just like segment addition, we learned that this little angle plus this little angle should give me the whole angle. So I need to add these together. So 4r plus 2 plus 5r minus 12 is supposed to equal 125. So when I add those two pieces together, we should get the whole thing. So now we're going to combine our like terms. So I've got some r's here. We've got 4 and 5, so we've got 9 r's. We've got a plus 2 and a negative 12, so 2 minus 12 is a negative 10, equals 125. Add 10 to both sides. We get 9r equals 135. And when I divide both sides by 9, we're going to find out that r equals 15. So r is 15. But it doesn't actually ask us to find r. We actually have to find the two pieces. So if I go to find OZP, angle OZP, I need to substitute the 15 in for that r. So we're going to have 4 times 15 plus 2. So 4 times 15 plus 2 is going to give us 62. And then we've got to find our other piece, our PZQ. So for PZQ, so angle PZQ, we're going to substitute 15 in for r again. So now we've got 5 times 15 minus 12. So 5 times 15 minus 12 gives me a total of 63. So I know I've done it right if when I add those I get our total. So 62 plus 63 does give me 125. So I know I've done my two problems correctly. So I think that pretty much sums up this lesson. So we've talked about what an angle is and its parts. We've talked about how to name an angle, how to measure an angle, and how to classify an angle. So classify is where you get the acute, right, obtuse, or straight. Naming is where you have like angle X or angle XYZ. And then we talked about how to add two small angles together to get a big angle. And that pretty much concludes the angle lesson. So if you have any problems on the worksheet, please reach out and I will try to help you as much as I can. Thanks.